Alright, we are going to look at polynomial arithmetic, and we are going to be given ahead of time the function f of x equals 3x squared minus 2x plus 4, which is a quadratic, and g of x is equal to 4x minus 5, which is a linear equation. And the first thing we're going to be told to do is find the sum of f of x plus g of x. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to grab f of x and I'm going to write it down. Then I'm going to grab g of x and I'm going to write it down. And I'm going to use parentheses because I want to keep track of all these terms together because we're using a single function as if it were a single number. So this is really the problem that I want to look at, adding this function to this function and finding out what that equals. There's nothing to simplify in here, there's nothing to simplify in here, and I have addition between them. So at this point I can just drop the parentheses. And then after I drop the parentheses, I'm going to bring together like terms. So as I look down through here, I have an x squared term. I have an x term and an x term here. And then I have this constant and this constant. So I'm going to bring these like terms together. 3x squared, there's no other terms to combine with it, so it's just 3x squared. This negative 2x and the positive 4x are going to add together. So negative 2 plus 4 is positive 2x. And then 4 minus 5 is negative 1. So the answer to the sum of f of x plus g of x is 3x squared plus 2x minus 1, and we see that this is another function. It's the sum of the first two functions. So we add two functions together and we get a function back that is called closure. The next thing we're going to look at is the difference of functions, and this one's a little more trickier. It's going to start out the same way though. I'm going to go up and I'm going to grab the f of x, which is 3x squared minus 2x plus 4 again, in parentheses. I'm putting in the subtraction, and then another set of parentheses, 4x minus 5. Now the tricky part about this is, even though there's nothing to simplify inside each of these parentheses, I have this negative here. And this negative, according to distributive property, is going to distribute over each of these two terms. So this is coming inside here, and we're going to see the negative times this and the negative times this, because this is acting like a negative 1 on the outside here. So I can drop the parentheses on the first set, and then I'm going to have negative 1 times 4x is negative 4x, and negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. And that's the real trick right there. That's what throws a lot of people off. At this point, we can go back through just like we did before and look at the terms. I have a square term here. I have an x term here and here. And then I have a constant here and here. So I bring these terms together, 3x squared, nothing to combine with it. Negative 2x plus negative 4x is negative 6x, and then I have 4 plus 5 is 9. So this is the difference. Again, I took two functions and I got a function back, so we have closure. And we should also notice that due to the fact this is subtraction and this is distributing here, the commutative property doesn't hold for subtraction, just like if these were, say, 5 minus 3, you can't commute that to 3 minus 5 and get the same answer, the same difference. So this is an introduction to polynomial arithmetic and looking at addition and subtraction. Here's another problem. I want you to try this on your own. So pause the video here and take a few minutes and look at trying to solve this for yourself. Alright, I'm going to work through this problem and you go ahead and check yourselves. So I am given this f of x and g of x functions up here, and I want to take f of x and subtract g of x. So I'm going to grab f of x up here, that's 3x minus 5, in parentheses here. I'm subtracting 5 plus 4x minus 3x squared. Hopefully some of you were paying attention and you noticed that this g of x was not in standard form. When we produce our answer, we want it to be in standard form. So this is the first step. So the next thing we want to do is distribute this negative to each of these three terms in g of x. So we're going to have 3 of x minus 5 here. There's nothing to simplify there. And negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. Negative 1 times 4x is negative 4x. And negative 1 times negative 3x squared is positive 3x squared. So now let's go through. We have an x squared term here. We have an x term and an x term. And then we have a constant and a constant. My x squared term I'm going to do first. It's positive 3x squared. Then I'm going to do my x terms. 3x minus 4x is going to be negative x. I don't have to put the 1 here. And then negative 5 minus 5 is going to be negative 10. So this is my difference. This is the function that I end up with at the end. This is my final answer.